Then came the change. Billowing red dust from the Mallee and Western districts hit the city at about 10 to 3, reducing visibility to only several metres.
After the destructive power of nature, we had the destructive power of man to destroy physically
For more than a week,
and financially.
The Premier has rejected depositors' demands to bail out the failed Faro Corporation.
Sometimes unleashing violence indiscriminately, all attacking the very fabric of our society.
It's 303 Hoddle Street, we're at.
The ABC led the way in some amazing advances in technology that would revolutionise our way of viewing sport.
Yeah, in 1987, we started with Minicam. It took a lot of convincing, particularly when we came up to do 500cc Grand Prix bikes. They'd never carried cameras before in races. They'd carried them on practice days, but they'd always been taken off the night before the race. Kevin McGee, who was a top Australian and world rider at the time, very kindly agreed to carry the camera in the first Australian Grand Prix. And that really set us going because it was very successful. He came forth and it showed to not only the bike people but the world that, you know, you could carry cameras on bikes and still do very well in races. Interest has spread in what we've been doing, particularly in Asia and Southeast Asia, where this sort of technology is unheard of. And we've been very successful in that. Every year now we do work in Indonesia, Malaysia, China, Macau, and we also go as far as England. We go and do the TT races on the Isle of Man.
But the Hawks have hung in when it looked as though the Blues might just run wild and win by 10 goals. There it is.
30-degree day at the MCG. I think it was one of the hottest days for a grand final ever. And being down at ground level, Ian Robertson was my co-commentator down there on the sidelines, and I remember him being asked by Tim Lane from the commentary box what it was like down there. And Ian had played in a grand final for Carlton, and he said, "Oh, Tim, it's just fantastic. I can smell the grass." You know, he was overcome by the emotion of it.
Nicely to Collins. Good bit of running by Hawthorn at the end of a long...
And the great diversity in sports coverage continued.
He only needs to be 2 feet overweight to rest off his own bowl. Oh, and he's given an enormous chance. It's coming home for him. Got the jack. What a magnificent bowl.
Well, Jack High was a spin-off of the success of the World Men's Bowls Championships, which were played at Frankston. I was invited by Bill Pritchard, who was our executive producer in sport, to work on the World Bowls Championships. I looked for the door to try and get out as quickly as I could, but worked on it and it was terrific. We had a lot of fun. And it went down so well with the sporting community generally, as well as the bowls community, that about 6 months later we were making the first series of Jack High, and that went for many years and still goes out on a commercial station these days.
Forehand, he did bowl the backhand his first one. Got a better bowl here. Little trail of the jack would be handy. Oh, good bowl run, Taylor.
Most people who broadcast sport or produced it or who were behind the cameras had a tremendous education in the coverage of the vastest array of sports that you could possibly imagine, because we cover all sorts of things.
Where there are great cultural events, the cameras are there to record them.
Must make the
full spectrum of the dance world has always been presented, and the vitality and energy of ballroom dancing has provided some of the most popular programs.
From the temperature, we know that the emu is not far away.
Well, Saturday mornings seem to be a good time to let things run wild.
And now we see some very rare shots of the adult emu at play. Emus are now being commercially farmed for their great-tasting low-fat meat.
And youth has been given a voice in other ways.
I think we're paying a very high price for our neglect of young people who are seriously disturbed or have serious mental health problems. I think the price we're paying, without exaggeration, in many cases, is the lives of those young people.